Hello boys and girls, this is Voodoo Magic showing you another game between Magnus Carlsen and MRJobe. Now MRJobe and Magnus, this is their 40th game against each other, and it is now 40-0. Not Magnus, MRJobe. MRJobe is of course a new MRJobe is a new player on the scene, at least relatively speaking. And he has been trashing all opponents, as you probably know at this point. So MRJobe starts off with a queen to on the G file, queen to G7. It's pretty much guaranteed that he's going to have to retake. Voodoo Magic takes the bishop with the queen. Now Voodoo Magic's in a very precarious position right now. He has very few pawns on the front rank, while as you see, there was 4 pawns up here and there was 8 pawns by Magnus Carlsen. It's very interesting development here that caused that. It was one of the stipulations of the match that allowed Voodoo Magic to basically get his way in the game. Now it gave him the disadvantage, of course, but as you see at this point, Voodoo Magic happens to be destroying Magnus Carlsen. Now destruction, everybody says destruct this, destruct that, but still destruction is a relative term. So now let's take a look at what Voodoo Magic does next. He takes his H2 queen and he attacks and destroys the H7 pawn. Now he's in a very, very difficult situation, Magnus, because he basically had to make that move. Otherwise, Voodoo Magic was just going to take that particular piece. Now is the difficulty for Magnus Carlsen. Now, Magnus Carlsen is going to play the queen to take the knight. And now, if he attacks the queen, he's going to be checkmated by the H-queen coming up and taking him out, basically. So his only really move is to escape. And once he escapes, what you'll see is the queen is now gobbled up. Okay, so now we have pretty much a new game. MRJobe blocks the pawn movement up. Now this is still exciting. There's still some lots of things that could happen at this point. For example, if MRJobe completely screws up, then he might lose. It's very interesting. Voodoo Magic now takes the that would be MRJobe. Excuse me, I'm talking about myself. MRJobe is guys, have I been doing that all this whole time? I like to put myself in the place of MRJobe. I have like a very strong I don't know. It's kind of like a fantasy to be MRJobe, but still. MRJobe plays the G pawn on F3, and that's met by the king going back. Of course, MRJobe then takes the knight and places it on the E5 square, blocking any kind of escape by. Oh, that's very interesting. This is I forgot about this part. This is where Magnus kind of retreats into the corner. He's like scared to death. Something's going on. So MRJobe actually attacks the pawn and it kind of draws the bishop to try to take the pawn, but because he's about to tap the rook, will he take it? He doesn't take it. He does not take it. Okay, so what happens next? It's very interesting. Let's see. Let's think about it a little bit to see what actually happens. Okay. MRJobe moves the e-pawn to e2. He's preparing to attack the pawn, I would assume, but we don't know. It's anything's possible, anything's probable. So let's see what happens here. He does exactly what I said he was going to do. He takes it. He takes the pawn. Now we have a very exciting game, folks. Now the Magnus Carlsen thought he'd shore up the pawn here, but he really has got a lot of troubles at this point, especially when MRJobe moves his queen up into position. He has to go back and to protect that, but see, it's pinned. As you can see, it's pinned. Okay, so what happens next? Your guess is as good as mine. No, this happens next. MRJobe moves his knight down to kill to put attack on the bishop. However, if the pawn retakes to block that, then it's a quick checkmate, or at least to that degree. Let's see what happens. Let's see what this is what I wanted you to see in this game. Okay, that is not what most people expected to happen, but it's an interesting idea. The bishop is taken, is gobbled up. Does he retake with the king? No, he decides not to. This was one of the, I don't know, I wouldn't call it a mistake, but it's Magnus Carlsen. He knows more than we do. So let's see how it proceeds. Now, the next move was a very interesting move. It had to do with some, it took a lot of training, a lot of know-how, experience for MRJobe to make this move. Let's see what happens. It was very exciting. I pretty much jumped out of my seat when I saw it. The pawn was taken. Now notice that if the knight moves again, there'll be a discovered attack on the king. Ooh, what happened there? What happened there, folks? I have no idea. Okay, so he moves up, and he's to protect. So if the rook comes down, the king will go. Actually, if the rook comes down, then he'll be able to put attack on the queen. But let's see what happens now. Another queen comes for the attack, checking the king. Then the bishop decides to sacrifice himself, but he did not take it. He takes another pawn. Oh, he is just content and not taking anything. What is going on here? The queen comes down to attack the king. It's pretty much over, folks. I don't know if you see it, but I think it's over. And it is over. It was over except for that particular move. And then the queen comes in. You heard the ding. You heard the ding. That was the final attack. We've seen, once again, this is the 41st victory of MRJobe over Magnus Carlsen. And he hasn't actually challenged Magnus Carlsen for the World Championship, which happens every 2 years, because he likes Magnus Carlsen. He doesn't want to embarrass Magnus in front of all his peers and all that kind of stuff. But and that's understandable. That's commendable for MRJobe. So anyway, I just wanted to say that I hope you enjoyed this video. You give your comments and your requests for new videos. Please sure to press like and subscribe to my channel. That way I can make more of these wonderful videos about MRJobe and how he just completely destroys the field. And the upcoming videos are very interesting. I have quite a few more to show you. In fact, as long as in his career, MRJobe is going to I think he's going to astound the world, as he has already done many times. So be sure to check out the video of MRJobe's top 3 games. Eventually I will place those in the comments. But anyway, so like I said, click the bell, subscribe, click the bell, and we'll give you notifications of any new videos about MRJobe. And I wish you a happy day, a happy evening, a happy time, a happy well, not a happy ending. But still, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'm hoping to see you all again very, very soon. Until then, as Benny Hill would say, bye-bye.